Hey everybody,
Hey
welcome back to the
everybody!
homestead.
We hope that your week is going well so far. Gosh, it's only Monday, so
Yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo.
yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, which is actually Sarah's sister's birthday as well.
Yep. Happy birthday, Liz. We do not do any fun celebrating for Cinco de Mayo, and
Nope.
honestly, in this part of the country, you would probably not even realize it was Cinco de Mayo.
No.
But when we lived in the Phoenix area, all the commercials were
Right.
advertising about it. You could go to, out to, have some cocktails or go to the Mexican restaurants and stuff like that.
Right.
And they talked about it in school.
Right. Yep. Here in this part of the country, not such a big deal.
Nope.
But for us, it was just another work day here on the homestead.
Yeah.
So it was actually a beautiful day. And starting tomorrow, we're going to have another 4 days of rain. So thank the Lord that we had a beautiful day today to actually get some work done.
Yeah.
We got the yard mowed. We got a bunch of work done in the garden, which you guys will see in an upcoming video. Yeah, lots of fun things happening this time of year.
Yeah. And it was not as windy today as it has been.
Right.
We are very much looking forward to warm weather.
Right.
And for the time of year where the wind stops here in southern Missouri.
Yeah, it has been an unusually cool spring so far.
Which is great because the brassicas are doing really well.
It is, but I'm getting sick of having to wear a coat.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to get up in the morning, throw on my t-shirt and head out to do chores without having to worry about finding a coat to put on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to, I would rather be warm than cold.
Yeah. But I was very grateful that last week when I did laundry, I separated out all of the winter clothing and put that away and got out all the t-shirts and the shorts and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I like that time of year when I can do that, because that means like my volume of constant laundry goes down significantly because of less layers and less long sleeve bulky shirts and sweatshirts. So that's good. I only had to bring back a couple shirts from that transition because it's still been a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy that we can move toward.
Yeah, I am too.
Short sleeves.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I will say though is that Kevin's dad let me know the other day that this past April in our area had the most rain. It broke a record, the most rain since 1945.
Wow.
So we had a very rainy April.
It has been it's been a crazy spring so far.
Right.
I don't know how much we've gotten.
He didn't tell me the totals.
But it's a lot.
It was a lot. It seemed like every time it rained, it was like 4 inches.
Right. And it's at the point now where like it's been nice for the hayfield and all of that type of stuff, but we're at the point now where it can't even soak into the ground anymore. So like we just, even if we only get like a half inch of rain now, we're getting puddles just everywhere, and it's just causing mud everywhere.
Right.
So now it could stop for a little while.
Well, how about
except for the next 4 days?
How about on and off? Because we do rely on our hay and our hayfield to feed our cattle for the rest of the year.
Right.
So,
and it's looking good. The hayfield's looking really good.
Yeah, and it's about 4 more weeks until it's cut.
Right.
So warm weather and rain, that would be awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go any further, let's thank some people that are helping us today.
Yes, that would be great.
So first of all, as always, our good friends Rich and Shelly from Air to Ground Farms and Air to Ground Meats are helping us today. If you haven't checked out their YouTube channel, Air to Ground Farms, check them out. And if you are ever in the Ava area, go ahead and check out Air to Ground Meats, which is their store in Ava. This is their storefront here. They sell everything that they raise on their farm. So beef, lamb, pork, chicken. I think they're going to be doing some turkeys this year. So they're going to have turkeys. And something very exciting about their business is that now they are starting to ship nationwide.
Yes.
So
excluding Alaska and Hawaii, they can't get it there fast enough, or the delivery companies can't get it there fast enough.
Right.
It doesn't stay frozen.
Right.
But that is very exciting that they're offering that the nationwide shipping. So check out their website. for prices and things like that. And you will love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know one thing that they always say is that shop local, but if you can't, then find another farm or family that you trust. And we can tell you guys that you can trust Air to Ground Meats. It's fabulous quality and really great people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then normally our son-in-law Gavin helps us as well, but he let us know that our daughter wanted him to take her to Springfield tonight
For dinner.
For dinner. So he's not going to be helping us tonight. I guess she wins out over us. That's okay. I hope they have a good time in Springfield.
Yeah.
But Gavin is a realtor here in the Ava area. So if you guys are looking to move to Missouri, really anywhere in Missouri, Gavin can help you out.
Yeah. And now is really a great time of year to start looking for properties, and it's a good time to coordinate a move. The weather is nice, and the Ozarks are beautiful. And for those of you who have kids in school will be out soon. It's just a great time to do that.
So, we've lived in many different parts of the country, and I don't think there's a more beautiful place than the Ozarks.
I don't think so either. Wisconsin's beautiful too, but wow.
Yeah.
Those are the Ozarks, and Southern Missouri really is breathtaking.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some updates for you guys tonight before we jump into our normal Q&A.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the geese. Many of you have been watching over the last, month or so that the geese have been laying eggs and then sitting on their eggs. We had an issue early in the spring where a skunk actually started to dig under the hoop coop and was grabbing eggs. It wasn't getting in the hoop coop, but it was able to reach in and scoop eggs out from underneath the goose that was sitting on the eggs. And it actually stole, I think, a dozen or more eggs from the nest. I was hopeful because there were still quite a few eggs under the goose at that point. But I can tell you that now it's been too long. None have hatched. And all of the geese have now started coming out, and they're no longer sitting on the eggs.
Yeah, there have been some that have hatched.
Well, I think there were 3 that hatched, and they all died.
Yeah. So that was pretty sad.
Right. So it doesn't look like we're going to be having any goslings this year. I am already starting to plan. The thing with geese is they only lay eggs once a year. So if you mess up or you don't get any that year, you're just not going to get any for another entire year. So I do have plans before next year when they lay again, that I'm going to be building a platform for that hoop coop so they're up off the ground. That way they'll stay dry, because I do think with all of the rain that we had this year, because that hoop coop doesn't have a floor in it, I do think that the eggs probably got wet and probably got kind of cold. And I think that's why more of them didn't hatch. So I'm going to build a platform so that they're up off the ground and so that nothing can dig in and get to them. And I really think we're going to probably do that on all of our existing hoop coops.
Yeah, over time.
Yeah. So I'm going to hopefully start on that soon on at least some of the hoop coops.
Yeah. And we wanted to give an update on Annie, because last week we talked with you guys that Annie was having quite a bit of diarrhea.
Right.
Or scours, they call it in calves.
Right. So we have 2 bottle calves. If you haven't been following along, we have 2 bottle calves that we're raising this year. One is named Annie.
Baba.
One is named Annie and one is named Barbara. Hold on. I'll go yell at them.
So there is a picture of the 2 of them in their lean-to having their breakfast. I think that was this morning, actually. They're doing so well. We have them on the bigger bottles. And this is a close-up of Annie. She's doing great too. So I would say 2 weeks ago is when she started having some diarrhea, and we didn't really know why or what was going on. Nothing really in what we were giving her had changed, and really the scours itself wasn't clear and liquidy, which is normally what calves will show. That's what they'll, I don't know, they'll poop out when they're really young.
Right.
But Annie was about 4.5, 5 weeks old when that started.
Right. Yeah. So we did call the vet and we did get her an antibiotic. I'm not sure. I mean, we gave her the antibiotic. I'm not sure it did a whole lot. But I don't know how much you already said because I wasn't really listening.
Well, either she got better or it helped because
Right.
her back end is not messy anymore and
Right.
it doesn't seem like she's having any diarrhea. So whatever it was that worked. And
I'll tell you, my gut feeling about it is that she was having the diarrhea because she had just really started eating grass.
yeah.
And I think it just didn't agree with her, or, their system just takes some time to start getting used to it. I don't know why she had diarrhea and Barbara didn't, but I really think that's what happened, is that she was eating more grass and it just took some time for her to adjust.
Yeah.
Because she never acted sick. She never had a fever. She never stopped eating. She was never,
she was never lethargic. She was
right.
always running around and playing and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So whatever it was, it seemed to have worked itself out, and she's doing great now. So, and both of the calves are growing fast.
Yeah.
Like
they're both 6 weeks old, or a little bit older than 6 weeks old now. And now that Annie is better, we are starting to introduce more grain.
Right.
So our hope is to have them weaned off of the milk and bottle by 10 to 12 weeks.
Right.
And so since she's feeling better, we can start introducing grain. Now, the reason why we're introducing grain to these calves is that the grain will help develop the part of their digestive system that allows them to digest hay and grass.
Right.
And normally, if they're feeding on their mom, that all happens naturally, but over the course of 6 months.
Right.
So,
or more. Yeah.
Or more. So if we continued bottle feeding them for 6 months or longer, we wouldn't have to introduce grain to kind of speed up their digestive maturity.
Right.
But because we don't want to bottle feed for that long, we're giving the grain to speed up their digestive, process so that they can hopefully in between 10 and 12 weeks transition to grass and hay so that they can be off of milk and
right. So we can be done bottle feeding.
Yes.
So because I'll be honest, it's been a great experience, but it's getting a little tiring.
It is.
Bottle feeding twice a day, and it's a lot of milk. And luckily our cow is able to provide most of the milk. Every once in a while we buy a little milk from Rich and Shelley, from some of their cows as well, if we run a little bit short. But it's just it's another twice a day chore.
Right.
So
and we're not getting any milk because all the milk that Babe is producing is going to feeding these two calves and her own calf.
Right. Yeah. So we still have to milk every day.
Right.
Just not not for us, but for these two calves. So if we can get them weaned by 10 or 12 weeks, we'll be happy with that. And, we won't be sad that part is over.
Right. Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of other updates for you or photos to share. So I think that we are going to start early on our Q&A section.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, there was a super chat, which we appreciate, from Baby Root, $5.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. They said, "Hey, hi guys. We did the same watering system you did for the raised beds. Do you remove it for winter? We're cold and snowy in northern Nevada."
We don't remove it for the winter. I do make sure that all of the water is drained out of it. It would probably be better to remove it. But basically what you can do at the end of the season is, obviously make sure your hose is disconnected from the beginning of it, and then go to either your last line and open the end of that tube. And so wherever your farthest away section is, so that all of the water will drain out of the lines. That's all I do. And it seems to be fine. We have very cold winters here too. I've never had it be an issue as long as the water is drained out of the lines.
Okay. From Troy Kogan.
Okay.
Hi, guys from Oz. Is that, I don't know. The
All right.
Ozarks? Oz? I don't know where
I
Oz
don't
is. Well, hey. Will removing 2 roosters from the flock, we are in suburbia, have any effect on them other than non-fertile eggs? Loving the content. Keep it up. Thanks.
Okay, we will be removing.
So if they get rid of their roosters, is that going to affect anything?
No.
Like as far as the eggs or the hens or anything like that?
No, it's just gonna. You're right. You're not gonna have fertile eggs.
Right.
Other than that, there shouldn't be any issue.
It'll just be quieter.
It'll be quieter, and and a rooster does serve a purpose of kind of protecting the flock and helping kind of keep everybody together. Like if you go out and watch our flock at night, when everybody's going in for the night, the rooster will stand outside the door and make sure all of the hens are in before he goes in, just to kind of protect everybody. So there are some benefits to a rooster, but if it's not allowed in your area, no, you're still going to get just as many eggs. They're not going to be fertile, so you're not going to be able to hatch any out. But other than that, you should be fine.
Right. Charles Pelton asked, at what age do you introduce your chickens to the nesting boxes? I don't think there's a hard and fast age.
No, I mean, you don't have to until they're close to 6 months old, which is
Right.
when they'll start laying around
Normally.
6 months old. Because we just already have nesting boxes in our coops, they're pretty much introduced to them as soon as we move them from the brooder into the actual coops, which is normally around 10 weeks old is when, like, if we're going to put new chickens with an existing flock, we do that around 10 weeks old. And at that point, they're introduced to the nesting boxes. But if you've just got a brand new flock and they're not laying yet, you don't really need to put nesting boxes in. I'd say at about the 5-month mark is where I'd put them in.
Yeah. Cindy Idle said, hi from Washington State. I'm getting ready to plant my tomatoes soon. Do you plant basil next to your tomatoes? I heard they make good companions. We don't specifically, for companion planting purposes, add basil next to our tomatoes. We actually have basil plants planted in the buckets at the beginning of our row in our greenhouse, and that has just happens to be there.
Right. Last year we did in the garden, we planted basil by the tomatoes.
Yes. We still had tomato hornworms.
Right.
And I'm not sure it really made much of a difference with the pests.
Right.
So I know that a lot of people are really convinced that companion planting really works. And I think if it's working for you, great. You keep doing it. We haven't seen much difference, but I don't want to discourage anybody from trying.
I think it depends on the pest pressure in your area. Right. I mean, I think that is, I think, if you don't have a lot of pest pressure, then companion planting might be all you need to do.
Yeah.
But if you live in an area like here where the bugs seem to be possessed, then you need to do something else that is a little bit stronger. So
I just learned something.
But we do, I'll say this. Let me say one more thing. We do plant basil near our cherry tomatoes. And you may have caught me already giving this advice on the video where we planted the greenhouse. But if you plant your basil near your cherry tomatoes, then when you're out in the garden eating your cherry tomatoes, you can wrap them in a basil leaf and eat them together, and it's delicious. So companion planting for your own. For
your mouth?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. For your own well-being.
Well, we should, have like a bacon plant there too,
right? Because
then you could do the tomato and then the basil leaf and then some bacon.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
All right, well, you get on that. Oh, Jesse Mann gave us a super chat. Thank you so much. $10. I just wanted to say howdy. I've been busy the last few weeks and missed some of the lives. I finally finished tilling my garden. Had to dodge all this rain in West Central Missouri. I know.
Oh, man,
keep up the great work.
If you were able to find a couple days in a row without rain,
right,
that was very lucky.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it seems like it's been like one day, you'll get one nice day and then more rain.
Yeah.
So So we're happy to hear that you got your garden tilled, because that around here, that's a miracle for this time of year.
And that's why sometimes when we were still planting in the ground, that's why sometimes we couldn't plant until almost June.
Right.
Because there was so much
Right.
rain.
It had nothing to do with the frost date.
No.
It was just the amount of rain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that is a lot better actually since we have switched to raised beds.
Right.
And it was really kind of great that we were able to plant the last 2 years before almost June.
Right.
So,
yeah. Especially at our first homestead here. That garden specifically, there was part of it where when we got big rains, it would flood.
It would, yeah.
And we needed to really wait, because you don't want to till your ground when it's overly wet either, because you can actually, create kind of almost a hard pan underneath, and that over time will make things even worse. So.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that while you were talking, Rich let us know that Oz means Australia.
Oh,
so we didn't know that.
No,
thank you for letting us know that. So whoever that was that said that, now we know.
So is that where the wizard's from then?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know any of that stuff.
I don't know either. We're not so worldly, so cultured.
Yeah.
We're just hillbillies, I guess.
Yeah, we are. Venturing Out with Vicky says, so just curious, why don't you plant in January or February since you have a greenhouse?
Well, because we don't heat our greenhouse.
Yeah.
And here in Missouri, January and February, it's still getting in fact, January and February are about our 2 coldest months of the year.
Right.
So there are things we can grow in the greenhouse over the winter, even when it's going to freeze. But a greenhouse like ours, if it's not heated, it will get warm during the day, but at night it's going to get whatever the temperature is outside, it's going to get that temperature in the greenhouse.
Yes.
So there's no way we could plant tomatoes and peppers and all of those things in January, February. They'd all die. And you couldn't even put enough like frost blankets on them.
Right.
So.
Right. We have looked into heating our greenhouse because when we were raising lots of plants starts for the farmers market, we looked into it, and you guys, it is very expensive.
Right. If we were to heat with propane, it was when I figured it out, it was going to cost probably about $800 a month to heat the greenhouse.
Now we could put a wood burning stove in there.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people do. That's actually how the Amish heat their greenhouses over the winter or in the early spring.
Yeah.
But then that requires you to be, in and out of there all day long, all night long.
Right.
Stoking it with
right.
With more
and since
more
we already
wood.
Heat the house with wood, I don't really want to have to be messing with 2 wood stoves going all the time, all winter long. So, so no, we don't plant. And in fact, this winter we took off completely from growing in the greenhouse, and it was actually kind of nice. So we may skip growing in the greenhouse over winter, or at least much.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But good question.
Yeah.
Because I do think a lot of people have the misconception that if you have a greenhouse, like it's going to stay warm, night and day. And unless you heat it, it is going to get cold at night.
Yeah. Beth is asking, what YouTube channels do you watch? And I think it might surprise you guys, the YouTube channels that we watch.
Yeah, we don't watch, I'll be honest, we don't watch much in the way of homesteading channels.
Not anymore. We did.
We did, and there are a lot of great homesteading YouTube channels. Yes. We mainly, if we're going to watch YouTube these days, we're mainly watching fishing shows.
Yep.
There's a couple that we really like. The main one that we watch the most is Richard Jean, the Fishing Machine.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked out his channel, it is amazing. He's hilarious, but he's also like an amazing fisherman.
Yeah. And he gives really great tips and
Right.
shows you
very,
what bait
very
he's
in depth, but just a very likable guy.
For sure.
Right.
There have been a couple others even.
Yeah, there's a guy in Tennessee, a cat fishing channel called Captain Billy. And so he's kind of a newer channel, but he seems like a nice guy as well. I love cat fishing, and so he's I think he seems like a very likable guy. I know he does some, takes people out guide fishing as well. But just a likable guy. He does some shore fishing, some boat fishing, mostly for catfish. Just a fun channel as well.
And then one of the fishing channels that I've been really interested in lately is called In-Depth Angling, because he really looks at all the lakes in Missouri and tells you how, where, and when to find the fish, and whichever, and he organizes it by fish species.
Right. And time of year.
And time of year. So I really like that. I'm a super nerd, and I watch them and I pause it and take notes and then play it and then replay it and stuff like that. Because I want to know where all the good fishing spots are, and I want to know where the fish are going to be and what they're going to bite on.
Right. So those are some of the channels that we watch.
Yeah.
Other than that, we watch some like true crime, some, some, videos about, our Christian faith and things like that. Yeah. But mainly these days it's fishing videos.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Ken Davis, $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
He said, just raised beds here in North Texas, but I'm always happy for the rain. Small garden by y'all's standards, but I have potatoes, onions, tomatoes, squash, and carrots. The carrots usually are mini. Well, good. It sounds awesome.
Sounds like you have all the basics covered. And, really, it's fun to grow lots of like unusual things in a garden, but you really need the basics covered. Yeah. In my opinion, that's the best type of garden to have, is just like the things that you're going to eat when they start to produce.
And really, over the past couple of years, the size of our gardens have decreased as the number of people in our house have decreased.
Right.
And what we grow in our gardens have changed because we have changed our way of eating to be a low carb. Right. Although I think there will be at least one surprise in the garden this year.
Yeah, we don't want to give away too much, but not everything is going to be low carb this year.
Right.
So got to live a little bit every once in a while.
Yeah. Mid-Coast Maniac asked, what is the latest calf total?
8, right?
7 living.
Yeah. We had one that died when it was born. Yes. That was from one of our cows named Sweet Pea. And then we have 7. So we have the 2 bottle calves and then 5 that are out with their moms.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you count Sylvester, it's 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
he was born on Christmas.
Yeah.
So technically not this year, but
we are expecting more calves, but we're not really sure. We have 4 heifer calves that are really pretty on the young side. Right. They could have gotten bred. They may not have gotten bred.
Right.
We have 4 heifers that are kind of in an older group, and 3 out of the 4 of them have calved. Right. The only one that hasn't is Fanny.
Right.
And Fanny kind of hangs back. She may have been missed by the bull,
right,
or she could have just gotten bred late.
Right.
We could potentially have calves through July.
Right.
And then our cows have all calved except for Cindy,
right,
I think. And the last 2 years, Cindy has had calves in July.
Right.
So she could still calve, or she may have calved too late to get bred last year. So we'll just have to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be changing a few things up in coming years to hopefully help things along a little bit.
Right.
We're actually going to try to have 2 calving seasons. We're going to try to have an early calving season in the spring and then another calving season in the fall, by putting our bull in twice a year. And that way, hopefully, if he misses anyone one time, he'll get them the next time.
Exactly.
And that way we'll hopefully get much better, rates of calving. So,
yeah. Susan Vanderwerker asked, would you add more beef cows to your herd? And would you get another dairy cow to be with your current dairy cow?
We are holding back heifers again this year.
Mm-hmm.
So far, out of the 5 that are out with their moms, 3 are heifers, right?
Yeah.
And then the 2 bottle calves are both heifers. So we've got 5 heifers that we're holding back that will be permanent members of the herd. Any more that we get, we'll also be holding back. Right now we've got 14 cows. We got 14 females that are of breeding age.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping to get up to about 20.
Yeah.
So that's where we'd like to be, is about 20. And I think that's about what our land will handle without having to buy a lot of hay.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So we'd like to get up to about 20.
And would we get another dairy cow to be with your current dairy cow? No.
No.
One is plenty for really the two of us. I mean, we give milk to our family members as they want it.
Right.
But one is definitely enough for us. We could sell milk, but I really am not wanting to get into that. And for most of the year, she has her calf with her.
Right.
And then, she does pretty well. She's only without
well, when Watson's, our bull, isn't with the herd of cows, he's normally with her. So she's not alone.
Right.
She's not out there alone. She's got her calf. We've actually got another steer in with her. So
she's very rarely alone.
Right. But no, we do not want to be milking 2 cows.
No. DMS says, question, I'm planning a greenhouse setup with raised beds about 20 inches high. What would you recommend to help fill it at the bottom? I mean, well, you could put anything, that is, any kind of organic matter.
Right. I know a lot of people do, what's it called? Hugelculture, where they put branches and sticks and leaves and all that stuff at the bottom. The only downside to that I've heard several people talk about that have done it is that when that stuff starts to decompose, it can kind of create like air pockets down at the bottom, and then all of your soil can kind of cave into those pockets. I've also seen people say that when that happens, a lot of times the sides of the raised beds will kind of pull in as well. So that's a downside. I know it does save some money. We went ahead and filled ours all the way up with compost. Even though it was a little bit more upfront cost, we felt like it was a better thing to do. But it really depends on, what you have available to you and what what direction you want to go.
Right. Rosalinda Hash says,
I'm glad you can read all of those, because
I have to go in really, and when I wear my contacts, I can't read as well as when I have my glasses on, but I've been wearing my contacts.
And I'm just old, so I can't read it.
So if you see me doing this, it's because I'm trying to read.
In order to read it, I need to be way back here.
Okay. So Rosalinda Hash said, hello from Anglo, Indiana. Cute calves. Thanks. Are you both feeling better since you have changed diets and supplements? Thanks for all the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we feel great.
Yeah. My psoriasis and my psoriatic arthritis are, 95% better. Every once in a while, I'll, get a little flare up here and there, but nothing significant.
It has significantly helped my digestive issues or my IBS.
Right.
It's basically gone.
Right.
And I feel like I have a lot more energy. I don't have a lot of like low blood sugar issues. Like I've never ever had issues like that. But
right.
I could always,
neither of us are diabetic.
No, I could always feel like when my blood sugar was super low, I'd get like shaky and that kind of thing, and I'd have to have something to eat. And I rarely have that.
Right. Well, because when you do fairly low carb, you're just not doing those spikes up and down and up and down and up and down. And then when you do intermittent fasting, which we also do, and really we've done that longer than we've done low carb, but with intermittent fasting, I mean, you're not waking up in the morning and instantly spiking your blood sugar and then,
with a high carb breakfast.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of levels everything out. And yeah, it's been 3 years now that we've been doing keto and low carb. We've both lost significant amount of weight when we originally started, and for the most part kept it all off.
Yeah.
I lost about 28 pounds, I think, when we first started, and I've kept off about 23 pounds of it. So I'm back up a little bit. We're not as strict as we were when we first started. We give ourselves a little bit of leeway every once in a while. If there's a potluck at church or something like that, we may cheat a little bit, but when we're home and we're eating at home, we try to be very good. And it's really helped.
Yeah. And originally, like from the time that we first started, I lost 14 pounds and I've kept off 10 of that. So and we've been just kind of being steady with that weight.
Right.
Yeah. Susan Vanderwerker is asking, Kevin, when are you going to get a donkey?
The donkey was a nice dream, and as much as I would like to have a donkey, maybe someday, right now we're at a point in our lives where we're actually trying to slow down a little bit. And I'm not sure adding another thing right now is in the cards, at least something that's going to require quite a bit of attention.
Right.
And it's something that we've never done before. So,
Right.
Someday maybe, but right now we're kind of enjoying, kind of having a little more freedom, like we've not, made it a secret. We're trying to spend more time this summer going fishing and things like that. And so adding a whole lot more right now isn't in the cards.
Right. Karen Ellis Hurl said, "Hi, what food pellets do you feed your chickens?"
We buy ours from a local feed mill called H&S Feed, which is a local feed mill here in Missouri, in Ava, actually, where we live. And it's just a 16% layer pellet is what we feed. And actually, our chickens, ducks, geese, everybody gets that.
Angie Norheim asked, "Have you ever had harvest lost from too much rain? Does it regrow for next season?" Well, if your plants drown from too much rain, whether they're an annual or a perennial, they're just going to die.
Right.
So there are some specific things like your strawberries themselves can get the actual berries can get too waterlogged, and then they'll kind of rot really fast. So the plants will still live, but the produce on it is poor quality.
Right. Same with, like tomatoes. If you get too much rain when the tomatoes are ripening, they'll kind of burst open. So yeah, it's an issue, but
yeah. One thing that we'll say is that now that we're growing mostly in raised beds and containers, that is a lot less of a problem for us than when we were growing in the ground, because they have such good drainage, and there's not that basically that backup of water all the time that can happen in the ground, especially our ground here. While it's very rocky, it's also filled with a lot of clay, and that retains a lot of water and can kill your plants. So, but unfortunately, when the plants succumb to too much water, it's really just unfortunately. Selena Sylvain said hello from New Brunswick, Canada.
Hello.
What are your favorite things about living on a farm with animals and garden?
It's just a slower, most of the time it's a slower pace of life. I don't know. The animals just bring us a lot of joy.
They do.
So, they're just fun to go out and watch. And I don't know. It just seems like the type of life we're supposed to be living.
I really enjoy the connection to animals and plants, and, the connection with, there's a faith connection in here, a spiritual kind of connection. And I really feel like we are doing what we were created to do, to provide for ourselves, and, trust that it's all going to be okay and work out. So I really love the connection with the earth and the animals and the plants, and a connection with our food. And we really feel like God called us out of the city to live this life. And we try to do that in a way that's honoring to him. Absolutely.
So
thank you for saying it that way. I was feeling like I was going to New Age, and that's the opposite of what I want to do. So okay. Gregory Roy.
All right.
Wow, sent a $20 super chat. Thank you
Gregory.
So much, Gregory. He said, "No comment. Just thanks for your content. I can't watch the live often, so just using tonight as an opportunity to support you guys."
Thank you.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah, we really do appreciate that. And you can always watch the replay of the live stream if you miss it when it's actually live.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
But yeah, thanks so much for the support.
Yeah. So I flagged this for us to talk about.
Okay.
This is from the Little French Homestead. And last week we were talking to her about gardening in Florida.
Okay.
And
I kind of remember that.
Watering. Remember?
Right.
And she sent us an update.
Okay.
She said, so last Last Monday, I was trying to say that I water my veggies 3 times a day for 15 minutes per sprinkler
Okay.
at 5 a.m., 11 a.m., and 6 p.m. Is that still too much here in the Florida sun, or am I okay? Thanks. What do you think?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's better to water less often but deeper. So I'm
Right.
assuming that. Well, I don't know if you're in raised beds or if you're in the ground,
So,
but
and that answer will be different depending on raised beds or in the ground.
right. But if you're in the ground, for sure, you're better off to water. Like I would do 45 minutes once a day
Mhm.
instead of 15 minutes 3 times a day.
And I would do it in the evening.
And I would do it in the evening.
Yeah. So I would do it at 8 p.m.
Right.
I would even do it later than what you're doing, because
Right.
you're also choosing to water twice during like the hottest parts of the day.
Right.
And that's not going to do a lot of good. A lot of that's going to evaporate quickly.
Right.
Especially if you're using a sprinkler.
Right.
A lot of that's just going to evaporate. And
Right.
the
Potentially burn your leaves of your
right,
plant
the water
as the
droplets
summer gets hotter.
can act like a magnifying glass on the leaves and burn your plants.
Right.
When we were gardening in the desert, I was following a guy that did gardening advice on one of the news channels. I don't remember.
The garden guy.
The garden guy.
But I don't remember what his real name is.
Me either. But and he always said to water deep less often.
Right.
And like we were saying before, when we watered in our garden in the Phoenix area, we watered for an hour or 2 at a time.
Right.
But then only
that was with
once
drip.
a day. That was with drip. Yeah.
So
now with the sprinkler.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you're doing raised beds, I would still do that same thing. I would water for a longer amount of time.
Yeah.
And I would water less frequently.
If you feel like your raised beds absolutely need to be watered twice a day because of the heat in Florida, same with any of the other, super hot climates, you can water twice a day, but water when it's cool.
Right.
Water at, you're watering at 6 or 5 a.m. That's perfect.
Right.
But then I would do like 8 p.m.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, maybe get yourself a moisture meter for your beds as well,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times, the top might look dry, but you may not, it may be plenty wet down deeper, and you really want to encourage, if your water shallow and often you're training your plants to grow very shallow roots.
True.
So you want your water to go deep so that the roots of the plant will go down looking for the water.
Right.
So that's our advice.
Yeah.
It's worth every penny you paid for it.
Joanna K is asking, can't you also turn the hoop coop on its side and staple that wire mesh stuff?
Yes, we could, and that would stop animals from digging in. She's saying so that like the skunk could have reached up.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we could. We could just staple wire on the bottom. And that would solve that one problem. But what I think really happened this year with the eggs, the eggs that the skunk didn't get, I think is because of all of our rain and them being right on the ground. I think they got too wet. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're going to build platforms. Mm-hmm. And so we have a platform. The hoop coop that we have our ducks in actually has a platform, because that was the one that I originally built for my quail. And I can tell you the difference between collecting duck eggs that are in that one where they're up on a platform and collecting duck eggs when they used to just be on the ground. It's like the duck eggs are nice and clean. They're nice and dry. When they used to be on the ground, they would, even in dry weather, somehow they would be nasty and dirty. So I think it'll be a good thing to build the platforms.
Yeah. Brenda Green says, what's your best advice for deterring wild rabbits from getting in the garden? I know you have raised beds, but any advice for in-ground gardens?
22.
But I mean, while that is true, when we had our in-ground garden at our first homestead here in Missouri, we did use electric netting that had the wires at the bottom only like a couple, maybe an inch and a half or 2 apart. And it didn't keep the babies out of there, but it really did a good job keeping the rabbits out.
Right. Yeah, it did. You just need to make sure that you're that is staying charged well.
Yeah.
The one downside to the electric netting is that you can't weed eat around it and stuff
Right.
like that, so it shorts out quickly and loses its charge quickly. If you can, like at the end, before we moved, what we were doing is we're actually rolling out the weed fabric all the way around the garden and then putting the fence on the weed fabric, through the weed fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it would keep the weeds off and it would keep it really nice and a hot charge.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did help keep a lot of the predators out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Angie Norheim said, cast iron skillets behind you. How do you keep them looking new? I don't know what she's asking the next question.
okay.
Do you any for like grill, Dutch oven, and other stoves I can't think of is wood stove? Do you make your own soap to wash them?
So you should never wash cast iron with soap, for one thing. Other than the enameled cast iron, that's
right.
fine.
Yeah. Some people will tell you that it's okay, but I'm not one of them.
Right.
I won't tell you to use soap on your cast iron
Right,
because the cast iron is porous.
Right.
And so if you don't have a really good, what do you call it?
I don't know.
Like if you have
seasoning.
Yeah, if it's not seasoned really well and have like a natural grease layer, some of that soap will get into the porous
Right.
parts.
Well,
of
the whole point of
cast iron.
soap is to remove oil. So you don't really want to remove oil from cast iron.
Yeah. So we have a video about cast iron. It's from a while ago, but it's a good one.
Right. How to care for it.
Yeah.
How to keep it looking good.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's well seasoned, it's really not hard to keep looking good at all.
Right. Yeah.
But when you get new cast iron or you start over after you've completely stripped it down, then you need to take some care for the first 6 months or so that you're using it.
And other than that, really, when I use them, if it's just something that has like a fat layer on the bottom and there's nothing stuck, I will just take paper towel and wipe it all off, and not even put it under the sink to clean it. Because the next time you heat up your pan, it's going to sterilize it anyway. So you don't have to worry about contamination.
Right.
If there are things stuck on it, then I will put it under the faucet and I'll use a scraper, to scrape off the bits that are stuck on there. Then I'll wipe it off really well, put it back on the stove and heat it up so that all of the moisture is evaporated.
Right.
What you don't want is to get it wet and then just hang it up.
Right.
Or
because it's porous. So water will get down in those pores as well. And then if you just leave it, it's going to rust.
Right. Yeah. So, and these back here, not a single one of them other than the blue ones, those are enameled. None of those were bought new.
Right.
None of them were bought new. We bought them, secondhand or got them as hand-me-downs, that kind of thing. Right. So they don't look new because they're new. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's just that we've seasoned them and have washed them.
And for the most part, if you can get antique cast iron, it's much better quality than most of the stuff that's made today.
Mm-hmm. Homestead Jude said, question, doesn't antibiotics affect rumen development? I don't know, but if it was that or have the calf die from having scours, we had to take the chance of treating it. Yeah.
So,
and hopefully by continuing to introduce grain again, that development will continue on without any problems.
Right. In a situation like that, we follow the advice of our vet.
Yeah.
And he knows, we have a great vet who's very good at knowing what to do with cattle.
Yeah. Robert Godsey said, do you grow radishes? I'm really enjoying this year's crop. Thanks for the wonderful content.
We have grown radishes in the past. We haven't in a couple of years.
We haven't in a while.
Yeah. We don't eat a ton of them.
We don't eat a ton of them. Actually, when we do eat them, we like them roasted.
Right.
With butter.
Right.
There's no reason why we couldn't. I don't think they're super high carb. They're not low carb, but they're not super high carb. We just haven't.
Yeah. It's just been one of those things that's kind of gone by the wayside the last few years.
I think they go so fast, we could just kind of miss them, and then they get woody.
Right.
And so that's probably just our fault.
Yeah.
Angie Norheim said, do you create your own fire and have like racks, the kind in ovens to cook outside? How do you come up with livestock names? That's two separate ones. So I think she's clarifying her question from before about the cast iron cast iron.
Oh, like do we use them for grilling and do we cook outside on them?
Mhm.
I do have some that we don't use in the house that I do use occasionally outside, like over a campfire or something like that. We don't do a ton of outdoor cooking other than we grill. But no, we don't do a ton of just like open fire cooking, except, if we're having friends over for a bonfire or something like that.
Mhm.
Then I do have some cast iron that aren't, I don't know. They're not the ones we use in the house, and those I'll use outside.
Mhm.
So, and how do you come up with livestock names? I don't know. We just
Sometimes it's a feeling.
right. Sometimes it's their personality.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's something the way they look.
Yeah.
Like we have one cow that we've named Cindy, and when the reason we named her Cindy is because she has, like
Her face is like modeled with different colors.
right.
So it's kind of, and I go ahead.
So Sarah was always calling her model face. And I said, well, if she looks like a model, we should name her Cindy, like Cindy Crawford.
Yeah.
So then we started calling her Cindy
Yeah.
because she had a model face.
Yeah. But we have one called
I don't know if that's a compliment to the cow or a dig on Cindy Crawford.
It's a compliment to the cow. I don't think Cindy Crawford would care. So we have one called dark nose and one called light nose because that one's nose is dark and that one's nose is light, that kind of thing. But we also do kind of default to older generation names.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We just pick names of whatever we're feeling like that day.
Yeah.
And really, there's a lot of animals on our homestead that don't have names, but for like the cows and stuff, it's just kind of nice to be able to, when we're talking, to be able to say, like this one, this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like so and so had a calf.
Right.
It's just kind of nice to be able to know who we're talking about.
Right. And they do have tags, so we could call them by their number. And we do have two heifers we call by their number because they look exactly the same and no
right. We haven't named them.
No names have just popped up for
Right.
them. So Semper's mom said, would you be willing to do more videos with keto meals and recipes? I'm 1 month in and already bored. LOL. I do have a couple ideas of some keto meals coming up using, ingredients and stuff from the homestead.
Right.
They'll be coming.
Right.
I just don't know when yet.
Right. I'll be honest. When we do those videos, they never really do well on our channel.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't do a ton of them. So, we try to stick more to homesteading than we do the cooking and, especially keto cooking, but we will have some coming up.
Yeah. I suggest that you just do some searches online. There are good blog posts that have like 25 ground meat keto recipes, and then you can go through them. And that's how I keep things a little bit fresh in that area.
Right.
Yeah. Annette Kessler asked, can the bottle calves be with the herd yet?
No, not until they're completely weaned from their bottles. And then even at that point, we'll keep them separate till we really know that they're eating really well. The herd right now, they're in a paddock that's like 50 acres or 60 acres. And so while we do check on them every day, we're not there to like really observe them for like hours every day. So we'll want to keep the bottle calves where we can really see them several times a day and really make sure that they're developing correctly. So it'll be a while before they're with the herd, but eventually they will live with the herd.
Angie Norheim asked, she's got lots of questions today. Thanks, Angie. Asked, the calf that lost a calf, how are they recovering? I'm thinking of a previous live stream. Was it mother separating from baby to adjust to its new environment? So we've had one cow that lost her calf at birth. And then we've had two that have basically abandoned their calves for one reason or the other. One had mastitis. The other one was a new mom heifer that didn't know what was going on and just kind of ignored her calf.
Right.
So Really, all of them are doing fine.
Right.
They're all doing well. The one that had mastitis has healed and has moved on. So they're all doing really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll all get another chance next year. So,
yes, they will.
Yeah.
Nancy the artist said, Kevin, what is the name of the water emitters you use?
I don't remember the brand name offhand. We ordered them on Amazon, and I have a link to them in our Amazon shop. But to be honest, they've been out of stock for a year or more now. And I don't know if they'll ever get them back in stock. So they are pressure compensating emitters. So if you are looking for some, that's what I would be searching for, is pressure compensating sprinklers or pressure compensating micro sprinklers or something like that. The pressure compensating part, if you can find them, really makes things easier. There are a lot of other emitters out there that aren't pressure compensating, where you can adjust the flow on each little sprinkler individually. And while those are fine, they'll still work. They're just more tedious, because if you adjust one, then all the others change. So if you have a lot of them like we do, it can be kind of a game of like, you adjust this one, now this one's off. And then where the pressure compensating, they all come on at the same strength all the time.
Yeah. Our friend Brian said that he was able to find the pressure compensating emitters. So I think they've kind of come in and out of stock.
So there is a link in our Amazon shop. Go check that out.
Baby Root said, I baked so much of Kevin's crusty bread, I had to go keto.
I feel your pain.
I know it.
That might be what did me in. The crunchy
funny.
bread and the pizza. Man. But, you got to live when you live. And then sometimes you got to say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Yeah.
So, but I do miss that crunchy bread.
I know. A Little Dry Creek Ranch said, do you have to do hoof trimming on your cows like they do with straight dairy cows? No. We don't have to on our beef cows, and I think for two reasons.
We don't grain feed.
We don't grain feed, and they are up and down rocky hollers all the time. I think it wears it down.
Right. Now, our dairy cow, we do have her hoofs trimmed usually once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we do feed her some grain.
Yes. And you can tell the difference when she has grain and when she doesn't have grain. When she's dry, we don't feed her grain, and then her hoofs don't grow as fast. Jody Whitler. Hey, Jody.
Hey, Jody.
Said, I moved 9. I don't know why that just...
I don't know.
Sorry if that totally blanked out on everybody. I moved 9 young American breast chicks through my yard for a few weeks, but this week they started shaking their heads and had sores on their combs. What do you think happened, and how could I prevent this?
I have no idea, honestly.
I wonder if they're fighting.
They could be fighting, but yeah, I don't know.
If there are a bunch of roosters in there, they could be fighting.
They could be fighting. That's about the only thing I can think of that would.
I don't think it's, a parasite, or I don't think it's like from being wet or anything, I don't think they get ear infections like other animals do. I wonder if
chickens have ears. When they
have to hear.
I know, but
I don't know about the ear anatomy of chickens.
I don't know either, but I've never heard of that. So, I'm with you. I think they're probably fighting. Mm-hmm. If they're still eating and drinking and growing, okay, I wouldn't worry too much about it, honestly.
And the roosters do fight.
Right. And they'll kind of work it out over time.
Yeah. Or they'll go in the freezer.
Right. I think we got time for one more.
Is it that time already?
I know. Look at that.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
Oh, my goodness. This is a lot of pressure.
Well, maybe we can do 2 more if we hurry.
Okay, no, we'll do this one.
All right.
From Ronnie Brace. Last question. I know you both love fishing, and was wondering, what is the largest fish you have each caught, and what type of fish? Thanks.
What's the largest fish you've ever caught?
Probably that walleye.
Probably.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When I was young, my dad would go fishing on Lake Michigan, and he would kind of charter fish, but mostly just for friends.
Right.
And he fished for salmon and like the big trout in the lakes, like lake trout and that kind of thing. I actually don't think, because I was so young, I ever reeled one of those in, but they're big fish.
Right.
But other than that, probably a walleye.
Right. The biggest fish I ever caught probably was a catfish. When I was growing up, we would do a lot of river catfishing, and we'd mostly catch big blues or flathead catfish. I'd say probably, I don't know, 35, 40-pound catfish.
Wow.
I mean, we caught some big ones.
Yeah.
But real quick story, when I was, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old, maybe not even, I missed the state record in Wisconsin for crappie by like a half inch or quarter inch. And I actually caught it while fishing with corn, a kernel of corn. We were actually fishing for carp because we wanted some carp to smoke. And I caught almost the state record crappie on a kernel of corn. So
that's ridiculous.
I was in the paper and everything. It was awesome.
And actually, the last time we went fishing, we went into a grocery store to get something. Kevin's like, I'm gonna go get a can of corn.
Hey, it worked when I was 10. Why wouldn't it work now?
I know. Oh, and Jody Whitler, a $20 super chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I'm so sad to hear they all died within 2 days.
Wow.
I don't know what was going on.
I don't know either. That
is so strange.
Unless there was something, some kind of pesticide in the lawn, or
probably not.
I don't know.
Now, this is not it, but I'll tell you that when we lived in Arizona, if the scorpions would sting the chickens or the ducks, they would do like head things.
Well, I don't know where Jody is.
That's true.
She could be somewhere.
But all of them?
I know, that seems weird.
Well,
you're right.
That's
like
so weird.
Or fire ants, or I don't know.
Now
you've got me really mystified.
Yeah.
But you're right. When we lived in Arizona, our chickens would get stung by scorpions, and they would.
They had like neurologic issues,
right?
And it was really
right.
And
most of them died within a couple days.
Yeah, and the ducks too.
Right.
So
I'm really sorry to hear about that, Jody.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking with all you guys today and answering your questions. We really appreciate you stopping by. Right.
It is, like I say every week, this has become a really fun part of our week. We enjoy spending this time with you guys, and just, giving you some updates of things that, don't always make it into videos, but then also spending some time just answering your questions. We really do enjoy passing on what knowledge we've learned over the years.
Yeah. So come back and see us again. And you can always watch the replay later on, too.
Right. Yeah. So you guys, we'll see you back next Monday at 6 p.m. Lord willing, we will both be here.
Yeah.
Until then, we're going to, I guess, enjoy some more days of rain and watch our hayfield grow. Yeah. So I hope you all have a blessed week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Take care and God bless.
God bless.